Hi, I'm Dewey Hollister, the Executive Director of the St. George Village Botanical Garden, the Botanical Garden of the Virgin Islands. And I'm here with our own Mike Zikorus, who has created these amazing planters behind me. And you probably saw the other video where we talked about what's planted in the planters. But I really thought you'd enjoy hearing about some of the interesting things that were involved in actually creating the planters. Mike made those completely himself. So I thought I would turn it over to the expert. Before I do, I'm going to very quickly say you may be noticing that my COVID-19 beard is retreating. I went from Abe Lincoln to General Burnsides now. So it's retreating away as the garden is opening up. So I hope to see you all here at the garden soon. But first, let me ask you the question. Did you think it was a crazy idea when we talked about doing these planters?
No, not at all. It was a great idea. It kind of finishes off the whole area up here, makes it look like it should. And they look now like they've been here all along.
Well, and I agree with that. And they also look like they were no trouble at all to make. And I know for a fact that was not the case. So start from the beginning or wherever you want to start and talk a little about what's involved in making a planter like this when you're putting it into a pre-existing site. What were your first concerns about the site itself?
Well, we had some issues of settling in the concrete, low areas, the pitch. We had metal railing behind here that had to be removed. And of course, to keep everything that we're going to put in here, we have to make sure that it's sealed somehow and drained properly so that the plants can achieve the certain amount of saturation and moisture all the time to live in as good as they can. So there were a lot of, it's a pretty straightforward project except for the preliminary plans that we had a couple of different ideas to develop a different style planter and benches, but it's for the most part it's in an area where it's very hot in the sun. People aren't going to sit here very long. I built them to be rugged. I've sanded them over and over again and have treated them with a
yeah, and I particularly want people, you can see when he's talking about the sanding, how beautifully sanded this is. So nobody's going to catch a splinter, nobody's going to catch a harsh corner. So these were really, really nice this way.
So, I mean, I'm pleased. I hope that people will come in and use them, and I think it was a great idea that you had, and thank you for letting me be a part of this.
So one question I wanted to ask you, Mike, when we're talking about these planters, is we talked about the planning of the space. Talk a little bit about the math that's involved, because obviously we're a poor nonprofit. We can't afford to just buy an infinite amount of material and waste a bunch of stuff. So how did you go about figuring out how much material you needed to go, and then what was the reality when you actually get the material?
Well, first of all, we had our drawing, and from the drawing, you go back and you make a materials list of what you think you're going to need. I made a list. I went to a lumber yard here on island. I didn't get exactly what I wanted, because sometimes here on island you can't always get what you want when you want it. So I did get, I used all 2x8, this is all 2x8 construction, pressure treated. The lumber that I chose was put on a forklift and dumped into the trailer the
first
morning I picked it up. That was the number one problem. Then I had to restack all of this lumber, and when I finally got everything I needed and I started to leave, I had a bolt pierce my rear tire in my truck. So that was just another problem. It's all a test anyways. And right. So anyways, I got the tire fixed. It was about 11:30 out on the asphalt. Got that fixed. got back here and started placing my base plate down in here.
So essentially a box. Initially start with a base box.
Make my frame. And then as I started measuring and cutting, I started going through the wood that I had purchased. And I noticed that the wood was warped, it was twisted, many horrible looking pieces. So those pieces you cut small where you can. And so in making this, everything is all screwed with stainless fasteners. In the centers and the dividers in the planters themselves, I have ties that actually are bolted from one side to the other to keep it together. There's just under 6 yards of material that went into this planter here, and in this larger planter here, there is just under 10 cubic yards of material that went into that.
And that's literally tons.
Basically a dump truck load of material that was dumped in here, one bucket at a time. A dirt layer, saturation layer down on the bottom, drainage at about a foot off the bottom, and then sand and our media on the top. So when we installed the drainage in this, water levels itself, and as the water comes up in the base of this planter, it's going to find this perforated pipe that has been wrapped with fabric to keep all the fines and dirt out of it, to keep it from clogging. And this is the exit point of the drain for this planter. It's stainless steel cloth. Won't rot for a while anyways, the wood around it. But it serves a very vital purpose to this planter. It has to have a place for it to drain, and we monitor this on a daily basis to make sure that these plants are healthy. And I was honored to be able to construct the planters for the garden.
Well, I really want to thank all of you for taking a look at this video about our planters. We have a lot more details we can tell you about, and we'd love to do that in person when we see you at the garden. So thank you, Mike, not only for doing the video, but also for doing the fantastic planters, which are going to be an asset to this garden for years and years to come. And thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.